Anybody have any questions?
Explain again, since I'm getting it, why drawing the shoulder blades down encourages the thoracic spine to engage?
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
No, and that's part of the problem. All it does is keep the shoulder blade available to take it towards the back of the body. It doesn't actually do that. And so in a sense, even though that might be our primary instruction all the time, it's not really the most useful one. But the one that's really useful, it's a hard sell. You know, take your shoulder blade towards the back of your body. I don't even really know what that means.
It's so hard to feel.
It's so hard to feel, right?
Yeah.
And because you can't feel it, you think, well, maybe I'm doing it. Don't really know. But again, when we go on to the back and we lift the arm, there's no choice. And then we really understand what the function of the shoulder blade is. It's to connect the arm to the body. It's the bridge, right? And if it isn't functioning as the bridge, if the bridge isn't really connected at either end, then you can't energetically cross the bridge. You know? Just like a car driving over a bridge, if it's not stable where it's attached to the other side, so on the one hand connected to the arm and the other connected to the back. That makes sense? The shoulder blade is bridging the two parts. And if it's secure on both parts, then we can even expand the bridge. And I find that this gives us so much more room energetically, and then the benefit is that there's space for vertebrae. Okay, so let's take the arm up now. Let's introduce a little gravity to the process. So when you move into my hand, you're moving from your shoulder blade. That's it. Okay, now your shoulder blade is contact with the back of your body. Now use that contact, but engage the abdominal muscles, lengthen the spine, let the arm be part of the process, and rather than pull the arm down, actually use it to lift your back body up. You see the difference? So the shoulder blade is engaging the back with the help of the core muscles. It's lifting the spine into extension. That's the value of it. Otherwise, holding the shoulder blades down is restrictive energetically, and it's not really giving us anything. Does that make sense?
But does the action of lifting the rib cage up counter the action of the shoulders pulling down and create that same extension?
Now, what's actually creating this work? What's causing the rib cage to lift? You know, it's like what causes the toothpaste to come out the top of the tube.
Exactly.
It's the firming of the abdominal muscles drawing in. That's what creates extension in the spine. Okay, good. Got that one. Okay, now, at the same time, the shoulder blades are moving into the back and they're becoming available to the back body. If they connect to the back body, now they can complement this action. So now the shoulders can also lift the spine, as well as the abdominal muscles. And if we just protect this by keeping the collarbones dry and feel just the bottom tip of the shoulder blade, it's almost just like it's got a weight on it. It's a counteraction. But if the real movement of the shoulder blade is towards the back, then it can complement this action, pulling the whole spine into extension. You feel that?
Yeah.
And so again, I could be lifting my arms really high, but if that action isn't connected to my back, all I'm doing is tensing the muscles in the tops of our arms. Make sense?
Yeah.
Purpose of the spine, but we should equally be able to see that the psoas is being lengthened in the process. For those of you that aren't familiar with this, inner edges of the pubic bone coming to sort of the bottom part of the thoracic spine, upper part of the lumbar spine. This is approximately where the psoas is connected. So by lifting the rib cage, holding the abdominal muscles firm, and lifting the spine from the base, pulls the psoas into extension as well. Okay, so it's a complementary action as opposed to a contrary action. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah, and that's really kind of what we're looking for. So I could be talking about the spine, but if the psoas is short and compressed, then the spine doesn't get a chance to open and lengthen. So I'm talking about it from the purposes of the spine, but I could have said exactly the same instructions from the purposes of the psoas.
Those first actions, lifting the rib cage, we're trying to lengthen the psoas, then we're working on the lumbar spine. And then when the arms bring in the shoulder blades, then we're starting to lift that up into the thoracic spine.
And if we carry that into Matsyasana and our gaze up energetically, we still have access, but we have a collapse in there to continuing the whole movement to extension. And then again, if you really want to feel it from the purposes of the psoas, as we lift up, firm the abdominal muscles, we're stabilizing the lower psoas and then pulling the upper fibers of the psoas, which is connected to our rib cage against. Okay, so we can even take this one step further because we were talking about the diaphragm. So if the abdominal muscles aren't engaged, so there's another line of abdominal muscle, and that's the rectus abdominis muscle, which connects to the bottom tip of the xiphoid process and goes down to the pubic bone. So in a sense, we want to stabilize that muscle because that allows us to stabilize the rib cage, which now allows our diaphragm to stay level. So if this is lifting up and not connected, then our diaphragm is basically tilting and kind of collapsing into the back of our body. So now not only do we have the psoas carried into extension, we're actually preserving the shape by lifting the back ribs and engaging the rectus abdominis muscle, kind of like getting it to work at full length, getting the psoas to work at full length, and again, all of these actions serve our breathing process as well at the same time. Whereas collapsing the neck, collapsing the chest, having the shoulders being pulled down to the back, it limits all of these actions. We don't get full breathing, we don't get energetic movement of the thoracic spine, we don't get space in the vertebrae, we don't get length in the psoas, you know? A lot of us have sort of started from Ashtanga and we're doing 5 breaths in a pose. You can pretty much get away with anything for 5 breaths. You know? Even the worst experience you can survive for 5 breaths. So it might even be a revelation to note that in the original practice, it was actually 10 breaths and not 5. 10 breaths per pose, per side. Which means you gotta get a little bit clearer at that point. But I start to feel when you head into the territory of 30, 40 breaths, you better know what you're doing, or you're really gonna suffer. So my feeling is by holding it longer, we will continue the quest longer to find the action. But somehow you get into the process, and by the end of the process, you feel positively liberated. You actually feel better than you have on days when you went into the class thinking, wow, I really feel like doing yoga today. And so we're sort of revealing that there's a transformative process, you know, and rather than prejudge the experience while I'm here, you know, because I know this has held true for me many times. The times when I least felt like doing the practice were some of the more significant times, and I got the most out of it. And it was just kind of like by hanging into that experience a little bit longer. I think you could carry that into a lot of things, you know. Don't really want to be here. Hang in there for a little longer, and then gradually things start to shift and transform in the experience. You know, it might prove to us that this is really where we need to be. This is a good thing.